This episode of Headlock Talk is brought to you by Austin-based company Naturally Hemp's and their new line of CBD gummies. These gummies are made with 100% baked-in, pharmaceutical-grade, non-isolate-based CBD. What we're talking about here is the entourage effect. The entourage effect refers to the stronger effect you get when combining multiple cannabinoids together, as opposed to just CBD. Full-spectrum CBD, or CBD distillate, tends to be more potent and lasts longer, which is what we're talking about here. Unlike some other brands that use a spray-on CBD, Naturally Hemp CBD distillate is baked in, so you know you're getting the full dose with each gummy. I personally use them for all kinds of things, like sleep aid or muscle pain. And did I mention they taste great? They got 5 flavors, strawberry, green apple, lemon lime, watermelon, and get this, the orange flavor has vitamin C in it. Ooh. So if this sounds like something you could go for, head over to your nearest Create a Sig vape shop and pick yours up today to see for yourself the difference Naturally Hemp's gummies can make in your life.
On this episode of Headlock Talk, myself and pro wrestling journalist Rob Wilkins take a trip down memory lane. Yes, we're looking back at the early days and the histories of pro wrestling independent company PWG, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. Alrighty, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to yet another episode of Headlock Talk and Wrestling Lore. I am, of course, the Texas gentleman Tanner Pruitt, and along with me here, my co-host for this episode, one Mr. Rob Wilkins, one of the most genius minds and brilliant wrestling historians that I've met personally. Rob, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I really appreciate that intro because I'm going to use that, I'm going to clip this and just anytime somebody says anything, I'm going to just show wrestling historian, or at least the best one that Texas gentleman knows. That way it'll be good for the business card.
Hey man, you've got my endorsement for sure. I will gladly put my name down as a reference for you anytime. Rob, I'm glad that I got in touch with you here today, especially for this topic in particular, because I know how passionate you are about this subject here. The title of this episode here is Rosita Revisited. Of course, this is talking about the pro wrestling company PWG, aka Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. And for me, there's not really any kind of way to skirt about it. The rosters that you see in companies like WWE and you know coming and new stars coming through NXT and the stars in AEW and even into Ring of Honor and Impact, they get a lot of attention, but they all have to start somewhere. And one of the biggest launching pads for many of the stars that you see in today's pro wrestling environment is from PWG, Rob.
Yes. And the one thing that I love so much about PWG is that somewhat got me. I mean, I've always watched wrestling, but there was a period of time where I got out of the paying attention to the internet stuff, really hardcore. What got me was I heard that AJ Styles was gonna be wrestling one of them, in part of this card, and I was like, I've never really heard of these guys. And this was right around I would say 2016. It's I heard of it, but I just started kind of paying more attention to it, and that brought back my pure love of wrestling, just all these different stars. And then it just I went back and just watched everything, and it's funny because when I started watching everything over, it's I remembered some of the stuff that I did watch. I just kind of forgot about Pro Wrestling Guerrilla because it was just kind of one of those things where I had a lot of things going on. I just kind of put wrestling on the side, and then when I went back to it later, I was like, oh, I remember all this, and it like came back to me, and it just meant like so much more that I forgot how good wrestling could be outside of what the norm was for 20 years. I'm not one of those people that will rip the WWE like as much as other people do, because I know there's so much out there that we could watch. Even then, it just wasn't as popular. So Pro Wrestling Guerrilla means a ton to me, because it really brought me back into loving pro wrestling. Like, so and when you asked me to do this, I was like giddy, and it takes a lot for me to get giddy about anything. So I was really proud to be a part of this, because they mean so much to me.
Well, and what's so fascinating to me, man, and I'm so glad that you said yes to wanting to be involved in this particular subject. The American Legion Hall, where PWG was originally, I guess not. I don't want to say originally, because they've had several venues over the years, but the American Legion Hall in Reseda, California, is the one that's most famed for. It's that iconic ballroom kind of look with the bar in the back, and the chandelier overhead light, and it's not the most glorious looking venue, a wrestling venue, but for a proper indie show, it's just so iconic. And I can't think of another venue besides maybe the ECW arena that is so iconic in American professional wrestling.
Yeah, without a doubt, and maybe Hammerstein Ballroom would be up there. But yeah, I would agree with you. The 2300 arena, then probably followed by Reseda. It's and that's the thing. Like, everybody, like, they just call it Reseda instead of like the Legion Post. It's just that's just the way it is.
What originally caught your eye when it came to PWG? Was it? I mean, I know you talked about seeing a card with AJ Styles on it, but I mean, what kept you in? Keep coming back to PWG.
The basically the biggest thing was the wrestlers, but the other thing that that got me was the excitement of, like, the fans at the show, Excalibur doing the call. I mean, Excalibur, doing some of the calls. It just felt like, even though I wasn't there, it felt like you're kind of part of the show, just like sitting there watching, and you get great matches, and just overall, like, some of, like, our favorites today. I mean, they pretty much wrestled in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. I mean, I know all my favorites did, and it's something that that's what caught me. Like, just the wrestlers that were there, like Kenny Omega. Just like at the beginning, when I go back with him too. I remember, like, Tyson Smith, signing with WWE, like, just, and then seeing these guys continue going on, and like you said, AJ Styles, and then you had Bryan Danielson. Just, that's what did it. Like, when you get all my favorite wrestlers in one spot, you got me hooked.
It's amazing what PWG really did, and the fact that they've attracted so many people, not just here in the States, but also internationally. I mean, one big thing, if you look at their roster, and I'll kind of name off some names real quick before we kind of get more into the nitty gritty of PSG's beginnings and its history. Let me read off this roster real quick. Aramis, Artemis Spencer, Bandito, Black Taurus, Brody King, Caveman Ugg, Daisuke Sakamoto, Darby Allin, Dragon Lee, Jeff Cobb, Joey Janela, Jonathan Gresham, Jungle Boy, Kyle Fletcher, Laredo Kid, Lucky Kid, Mark Davis, Mike Moretti, Orange Cassidy, Pentagon, L0M, Puma King, Ray Phoenix, Ray Horace, Tony Deppen. These are people that have been on the roster or have wrestled most recently in PWG. You could tell. I mean, there's a lot of talent from Mexico as well coming in here, and not only just them, but internationally as well. So there's a particular spice, there's a particular flavor, and a celebration really of the different styles of professional wrestling that you can find in PWG.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, so many people, even like, and that was just like the most recent one, and like Bandito, just that dude is one of my favorite guys to watch. Even now, and you're right. You hit it right on the head. Like, just you get a vast. Or maybe a wide net of just talent from all over, and I just, what can you say when you get so much talent? And I know a lot of people have always more recently give him grief, but Dave Meltzer's right, man. Pro Wrestling Guerrilla is top notch. I'm very, very excited to see what's going to be going on in their future too. I really am.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's regularly gets scouted by the likes of William Regal and others. I mean, obviously, Excalibur, who does commentary for PWG, he's obviously got strong links and ties with AEW himself. So, I mean, there's a lot of talent who goes through PWG and ultimately goes elsewhere. I'm not going to say to bigger and brighter things, but they definitely make their name in PWG, and it tends to work out really, really well for them. And you talked about the talent level. I remember watching a particular Battle of Los Angeles where Jushin Thunder Liger, it was so surreal seeing Jushin Thunder Liger at the American Legion Hall in Reseda, partaking in Battle of Los Angeles and participating in the multi-man tag match. And it was just mind-blowing to me. It's mind-blowing, all the people that have walked through those doors. So PWG originally started, I guess, by a conglomerate, if you will, a group of several wrestlers: Disco Machine, Excalibur, Scott Lost, Super Dragon, Top Gun Talwar, and Joey Ryan, of course. Now, you will probably get several mentions of Joey Ryan. Obviously there are the allegations that are around. Anything that is said about Joey Ryan at this point, it is alleged on our part, just for us to cross our T's and dot our I's here. But he is, for better or worse, a significant part of the history of PWG.
Yeah. For sure.
Talk to me about the early days, the early rosters of PWG here.
Oh man, going back like early rosters, obviously, like, you have you had your Joey Ryan, who like you mentioned, that was one of the guys that I really kind of was interested in. Like, at the beginning, he had there was something about him that just really caught my eye, that I really liked. Going back,
he was definitely unique.
Yeah, he was one of those guys that just caught my eye at the beginning. And the thing is with Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, like, it started in, what was it, 2002, 2003, and just the talent, like, that was that was in the or I hate saying company because it's, I mean, they've only had, like, in their time, they've had, when I looked last night, they've had over 200, just right over 200 events. But I mean, you start with guys like Colt Cabana, Scorpio Sky was in there in the beginning. Joey, like, obviously Joey Ryan. You had Super Dragon,
Christopher Daniels,
yeah, Adam Pearce, Disco Machine,
AJ Styles,
Frankie Kazarian, who is getting, I mean, he's getting, in my opinion, he's getting his real first push, I think, now in AEW. And he's been a guy that I remember for a long time, and a lot of people don't know this per se unless you've done a lot of research on him. But I mean, Frankie Kazarian is one of the very few guys that wrestled with and against John Cena before WWE. You know, like and you had guys like Hardcore Kid, who I just thought of for the first time in forever. Just so many guys that that just put it all out there. You know, they had great matches, and it makes me smile going back now thinking about, like, some of these guys that I haven't seen in a while, and just some of the pure. The one thing that I love almost just as much as pro wrestling is movies. And I mean, you have the back in the day, you had the Tango and Cash Invitational. You have the Kurt Russell reunion. It's just stuff like that, you know, just things that it ties in with me, and it was just entertainment, you know, just good entertainment, good pro wrestling. They put it all out there, and that's the thing about this company. When they started in the early 2000s to even 2021, they're going to put it out there again, and I'm just very excited. And I hope, the one thing that more than anything is, I hope people, since the pandemic, I hope people go back and check stuff out. I mean, their first couple of shows, I mean, there were less, I would say probably less than 200 people in most of them. And it's just, but it felt like it felt like you were there. Like they just put it all out there. I mean, so many great, like, stars, and even then, like, you didn't know who these people would be, but you know, you loved them, like, just watching them in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, and just to kind of go back, some more names that, I mean, we're just starting to scratch the surface, you know, around the time of PWG's beginnings. I mean, we've got, you know, guys like CM Punk and Samoa Joe and Chris Hero, Homicide.
Yeah.
A little known wrestler by the name of Bryan Danielson.
Yeah, that American Dragon guy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what he went on to do. I mean, I've not heard of him doing much since then. But yeah, I mean, these are top-notch wrestling talents that were there in the very beginning of PWG.
Yeah.
Let's kind of go through here. What PWG is all about. Now, there's mostly throughout the history, for better or worse, PWG is vast majority male wrestlers. Candice LeRae is the only female wrestler that I can think of offhand who's competed in PWG. But I would say she's even up there amongst the best ever to compete in that company. She's challenged for the PWG World title. She's also been a PWG World Tag Team Champion. But these guys here in PWG, they've only really got two titles: the Tag Team Championship and the World Heavyweight Championship, PWG World Championship.
Yeah.
And that's kind of their bread and butter. You know, all their storylines revolve around those particular titles. Now, speaking of these championships, I will make a couple notes. Current champion is Bandito. He won the title right before the pandemic, so he's still on his very first reign. over 500 days now as champion. And Trey Miguel and Myron Reed were, well, not Myron Reed.
Yeah, I think, isn't it Myron Reed?
It might be Myron Reed. Yeah,
Yeah.
Trey Miguel and Myron Reed are the tag team champions.
Yep.
Well, no, that still doesn't sound right. What's the name of the current NXT tag team champions?
Yeah, it's
MSK.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think we'll have to edit this part. But
yeah.
I think but I think is the one Trey Miguel, is he the one that's still in Impact though?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the gentlemen over at MSK, they are the current tag team champions. So that title's more likely than not vacated, and we will eventually have new tag team champions at some point. We'll see when that happens.
Yeah.
And that actually brings up a pretty good opportunity for a segue here as well. Obviously, we talked about a bunch of singles wrestlers earlier, but there's been a lot of great tag teams as well that have walked through the doors of PWG. Most notably, perhaps, not just the Rascals, who were the longest, reigning current, I guess, in the current era of PWG, but the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks are probably the most standout PWG tag team champions.
Yeah, for sure. That's where I first saw them, and I mean, I know like they had a history of like wrestling in different places, but where I first got to see them do their thing was, and this is like a lot of people, was Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. Like I'm like, these guys, they are like something else, and I remember like everybody called it Super Kick Party. I called it like before I really even knew Super Kick Party. I called it like a Super Kick-a-thon, because they just, that's what like caught my eye. And the two things about like the Young Bucks is they had this at that time, and it hasn't really changed if you think about it. They have this like this, I don't know if aura is the right word, but they just, when you saw them like get in the ring and they did their stuff, it felt like one of those very few times where it's like they want to win, but hey, they're doing their thing. They're gonna put it out there, and they just want to entertain. And that was what got me to like them. Like Matt and Nick, I mean, they're phenomenal today. I mean, they're when you think tag teams, they're gonna be up there, like from like in the future, like they're, let's say 15, 20 years from now. I think when you think of non WWE tag teams, they're gonna be up there. And I'm talking like, when I say non WWE tag teams, you had teams like Legion of Doom, but a lot of us who just crave wrestling, like think of Road Warriors, like think of the WCW times and AWA, like tag teams. But the Young Bucks are going to be up there, like I believe, like, and they haven't changed. They've just, and if anything, they've gotten better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let me run a few more names by you, because I just want to still try and help bring the listeners a sense of magnitude of how many people have walked through the door of PWG here. So at one point in 2012, we had we've had Kevin Steen, obviously, prior to that, being a multi-time tag team champion. You can go over into 2012 when they were in Rosita, and you had a tag team called the Super Smash Brothers at one point, who would be Player Uno and Stupefied. Player Uno and Stupefied are, of course, Evil Uno and Stu Grayson of the Dark Order.
Yes.
We also have the Unbreakable Effin' Machines, which is Brian Cage and Michael Elgin, right? Big names. The World's Cutest Tag Team, Candice LeRae and Joey Ryan. Monster Mafia, which was at the time Ethan Page and Josh Alexander, right?
It became the North, and I mean, right there, that was when you said that, like when you started saying these tag teams, I was like starting to go through my head. I'm like Monster Mafia, just like, whew.
Yeah, way back in the day. Beaver Boys, Alex Reynolds and John Silver, also part of the Dark Order. Fast forward into like 2017, we've got the Lucha Brothers, Pentagon and Ray Phoenix. The Chosen Bros, if you'll remember their reign, Jeff Cobb and Matt Riddle. And then, of course, again, the Rascals, Zachary Wentz and Desmond Alexander. They were the last known PWG Tag Team Champions. Of course, they will have surrendered their titles as they now work in NXT, of course. But yeah, just so many people have walked through the doors of PWG. I'll get us over to the World Championship now, just to again give some highlight and some full context into this here. I'm gonna talk about I'm gonna run through the list of all 31 of the champions. Okay.
Yeah.
Frankie Kazarian was the very first champion, followed by Adam Pearce. Super Dragon would hold the title in 2004. AJ Styles would hold the title in 2005, as would Kevin Steen and Joey Ryan. The Human Tornado would be the champion in 2007, as would El Generico and Bryan Danielson. And moving into 2008, we had Low-Ki. We had Chris Hero. Bryan Danielson won the title again. That title would then be vacated and won in a tournament, the Battle of Los Angeles, which we'll talk about here in just a second. Kenny Omega would actually win the title in 2009. Really young Kenny Omega in 2009. Davey Richards would then win the title after him. Claudio Castagnoli, also known as Cesaro, would be champion after another title vacation. Kevin Steen, El Generico, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong, Zack Sabre Jr., Chuck Taylor, Ricochet, Keith Lee, Walter, Jeff Cobb, and now the most current champion, Bandito. That's a murderer's row, Rob, of of talent.
Oh, for sure. And what's funny is, like, when you said you were going to go over these names, the first thing that came to me, I'm like, everybody talks about some of these dream matches that they would love to see from like WWE and AEW, and I'm like, man, just grab some Pro Wrestling Guerrilla DVDs and you'll probably see them.
You'll find out that they've already happened. Yes. Yeah. It's quite amazing what they've had. I mean, every member of Undisputed Era has been in PWG, right? They've competed in PWG, and that's really where you get the Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly feud, along with what they did in Ring of Honor.
Yep.
I mean, that's where those feuds began. It's incredible. I mean, even Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre didn't get his start in PWG, but he competed in there.
Yeah.
That's where he helped develop himself more to make this second run. Right.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Let's talk about the Battle of Los Angeles tournament here, Rob. It's PWG's hallmark tournament. People travel from all over the world to come see the Battle of Los Angeles.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing. Like, there's certain things that I would love to do, like when it comes to wrestling, like would be to see a show at Madison Square Garden. One of those other things would be to see Battle of Los Angeles, to go to LA to watch this would be like, that would be up there. And that's still today, even though they don't have the wrestlers that they used to have. I know that most of these guys that are there will be those future ones that we talk about in years from now too. I mean, it's such a good tournament. It's obviously, like, when you think tournaments, you think of like New Japan, and you think like in here in the States now, you probably think about like the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Tournament, but King of the Ring hasn't been the same for years. But in my opinion, and I don't think anybody would argue, that's the best tournament in the United States for sure.
Oh yeah. I would say next to the G1, it's one of the best tournaments, one of the best tournaments in the world as far as pro wrestling is concerned. It's basically what the Battle of Los Angeles is well, it started back in 2005. It was about it's a 16-man tournament that leads to a finals, and generally speaking, the winner either gets the title if the title's been vacated, or they get a number one contender shot to the title. And I mean, again, we could go over the list of names here: Chris Bosch, Davey Richards, Shima, Loki, Kenny Omega, Joey Ryan, El Generico, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Ricochet, Zack Sabre Jr., Marty Scurll, Ricochet again, Jeff Cobb, and Bandito. These are all winners of the Battle of Los Angeles. Other people who've competed, of course, Chris Hero, Johnny Gargano made it to a finals. Trevor Lee and Will Ospreay made it to a finals in 2016.
Yeah.
Keith Lee made it to the finals in 2017. Shingo Takagi made it to the finals with Bandito when Jeff Cobb won it in 2018. This is just the magnitude of people who have just been there and have competed at the Battle of Los Angeles is outstanding.
Oh yeah, like, and that's the thing too. Like you said, the people that have just been like the runner up of like those matches, or like of the tournament. I mean, like you said, SEMA, and I know you said like Chris Hero. I mean, every single Speedball Mike Bailey. I think that was probably like 2013, 2014, maybe later, but that was like one of the first times I saw Mike Bailey. And I mean, just everybody who has been a part of that tournament, just you can't really ask for more than that. It just so many great wrestlers, and I think Ricochet might be the only guy that's won it twice.
Yes, Ricochet is the only guy who's won the Battle of Los Angeles on two occasions. Chris Hero has made it to the finals on more than one occasion, as has Michael Elgin. In fact, 2015, I believe, is the 2015 Battle of Los Angeles when I saw Chris Hero face off with Tommy End in the Battle of Los Angeles tournament, who's obviously, he went on to become Aleister Black in one of the most hard-hitting and unique matches that I had seen at the time. It was spectacular.
Yeah, yep. Tommy End, I mean, that's another guy that I didn't really follow him much before that, and when I heard that, like, he signed back in the day with WWE, I was like, the dude from Pro Wrestling Guerrilla signed with WWE, and I'm like, I don't really know about the name, but I'm like, Tommy End was a good wrestling name. But then Aleister Black, like, he's one of those guys that, I mean, if we talk like just recently, it's one of those things that makes you scratch your head. Like, just sometimes you don't know what you have until it's gone. And that's the thing. Like, every single person that you mentioned, for the most part, I mean, they're like, for guys like us, they're household names. But even a lot of people know who these guys are. Obviously, like, I mean, they might not know the name, like Kevin Steen, but Kevin Owens. Like, just every single one of these guys, it was kind of like it in a non, like, it was kind of like NXT before NXT. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, I totally get what you mean. Because I think the way that PWG comes across is really underground. It showcases a lot of talent that you might not know who they are upon first appearance, but there's something about going to that American Legion Hall
Hmm.
or where people just go balls to the wall, right? And they go and make a name for themselves, and it's not just even the wrestlers themselves, but the crowd is so super appreciative. And I mean, you never know who's going to turn up there. I mean, I've got multiple PWG tapes where I've seen Dave Meltzer in the crowd. I've
Yeah.
seen what's his face, who's the MMA fighter, youngest ever UFC heavyweight champion.
Oh, I know who you're talking about, and then I just
Uh, what's his name? Here, I'll bring it up here in just a second. But like Shayna Baszler, like if you watch like the mid 20 aughts or not 20 aughts, the mid 2010s PWG shows. I mean, you can see Shayna Baszler in the crowd for quite a bit of it.
Mhm.
Um, it's just you never know who's going to turn up and be at that PWG show. Um, I'm finding the name now. Let's see. Like it feels really obvious. I feel like I'm going to be like, oh yeah, I knew who that was. Josh Barnett.
Yeah.
Josh Barnett
Yep.
Was in the crowd several
That's
times.
I was like that. I'm like I think it. I should have just said that. I'm like I think it's Josh Barnett, but I go I might be wrong.
No, I mean big name going to a wrestling show. Josh Barnett.
And yeah, and I was just looking at like one of their more recent cards from 2019. I mean, you have like on this card, like you have some of the future guys like Jake Atlas. He hasn't even touched his. People have not seen his potential in NXT,
Mm.
really. Then you have guys like A Kid, who's in NXT UK. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Gresham, who I absolutely love to watch wrestle. Jonathan Gresham
Mm-hmm.
is, and I like one thing that I absolutely cannot stand to use is saying like underrated.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's a guy that doesn't get the attention that he should, Jonathan Gresham would be on the top of that list for me.
Oh yeah, I mean Jonathan Gresham is every bit as good as of a technical wrestler as maybe Daniel Bryan and Zack Sabre Jr. I would say he's the next heir apparent to that throne. In my expertise,
Yeah,
he's just so fascinating to watch. And in fact, I think one of the cards that you might be reading off of was the 2019 Battle of Los Angeles
yeah,
itself.
yep.
Yeah. If I'm remembering correctly, um, I think Jungle Boy had an amazing match with who did he
Uh,
face in the opening rounds?
he wrestled. Oh goodness, was it?
I'm gonna try and find this card here. We appreciate you for standing by here because there's just so much about PWG to hunt down and find. Um, PWG Battle of Los
Well, I
Angeles.
know he was in a big 10-man tag match too.
Mhm.
But I mean, just look at that team. You had Artemis, Spencer, Jungle
Mhm.
Boy was in this match. Orange Cassidy was in this match. That was right about when Orange Cassidy started getting bigger. Um,
Mhm.
you had Tony Deppen was in that match. I think was David. No, David Starr was not in that match. He was
Mhm.
wrestling singles.
Mhm.
Lucky Kid.
Jake Atlas was the one who had the match with Jungle Boy that I'm thinking of.
Okay.
That match, I don't know if you've seen that one, Rob,
Hmm.
but it is
Yeah.
it is spectacular. It's a great match. Um, and then Jonathan Gresham had an amazing match also later on in the tournament with A Kid,
Yeah.
one of the absolute best displays of technical wrestling that you will see. It's just a fantastic match. Um, I mean, obviously, we can wax lyrically all day about who's been in PWG. Obviously your Garganos, your Champas, your Shingo Takagi's, your Zack Sabre Juniors, your Chuck Taylors, your Keith Lee's, your Dominic Dijakovic's, your Young Bucks. We could talk all day
Yeah.
about who's been there. But I'll help us cap off this episode in particular with I want you to sell the listener, if they have not gone to highspots.com and gotten a membership for PWG or downloaded a PWG show, why should they, Rob?
Well, it's kind of like I said earlier. I mean, if you've ever like wanted to, I mean, not every guy is wrestled, but if there's some dream matches that you've had of like AEW and WWE guys, I'm willing to bet one of those matches will have happened in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. And not only that, like why you should watch it is it has some of the best wrestlers of now, but you're going to see some of the best wrestlers of the future. Like Jungle Boy, he just started getting that push. Like after Double or Nothing, like, I mean, he's already working. Last night he worked an angle with Kenny Omega, starting that. The guy's going to be a star. I know everybody talked about Adam Page being the next guy, but Jungle Boy, and that's his home. That's his home turf. PWG is his home turf. I mean, that's where his pops, Luke Perry, got to watch him wrestle most of the time. That's, I mean, there's just so much like history to that, and the thing about that, when I say history, it's recent history. I mean, like, and I said it just a few minutes ago again. The one thing that was so great about NXT before they kind of went to USA is it felt like you were a part of something. Pro Wrestling Guerrilla gives me that same kind of feel. Somebody that I absolutely adored and still do, and I love watching him. I don't think, get much recognition, but it's two guys really, best friends, Trent and Chuck. Like that. That's when I remember Trent. I remember watching Trent, and I go, oh, the former like WWE guy is here, and I watched him, and I'm like, what in the hell? Like, this guy is amazing. Why did WWE not see this? How is this not possible? Just stuff like that. Like, and that was after he left. And Chuck Taylor was one of those guys that I was like, this guy is
He's
good.
Something.
Yeah, and just something. Yeah, and I mean, he wrestled, like, even as I stated before, Orange Cassidy. That was kind of when the first time I got to see Orange Cassidy gimmick, and at first I was kind of like, this is stupid, but then over time, just like almost everybody, you're like, this guy is amazing too.
There's something to Orange Cassidy for sure.
Yeah, and just to finish up on that, like, that point is there is something for everyone. Like, I mean, for the most part with Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, I mean, their matches are almost. I mean, do they have any matches that are like kind of like sleepers? Not really, and their matches don't last incredibly long. They're usually almost like pay-per-view length. It's just, I mean, like another one that just came to mind was the Guerrilla Warfare match with Joey Janela and Darby Allin. Just stuff like that. Just so much history, and again, definitely, if you can afford it, give them a watch. I don't think you'll regret it. I still watch. It's no secret, like with us, that I'm a big Adam Cole guy. I still watch Adam Cole matches from there. I watch Kevin Steen matches. I went through a Kevin Steen kick a few months ago when he was feuding with Roman Reigns, and sometimes I'll watch just Kevin Steen matches, but sometimes I'll just fast forward and watch. I've watched some Brody King matches. Just there's so much for everybody, and I definitely would recommend checking it out.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, there's so much to unpack from what you've said, but I mean, if you get that membership, there, I mean, and this is not a sponsor, this is not a plug. I'm just telling you for your own health and benefit, listener. If you signed up for the High Spots subscription service for streaming, particularly for PWG, you do get access to, I think, the vast majority, if not all, the PWG shows. Um, like Rob put it, there's a little bit of something for everybody, and there are matches that do get super long at points. I mean, there's matches that go the 20-minute mark, 30-minute mark, over 30 minutes that aren't even main events on a card, but they do make it worth your while. I'm going to recommend a couple of matches here just real quick. Um, there's during the Battle of Los Angeles, what they typically do is at the very end on night 3, they will get 10 guys who competed in the tournament to do a 10-man tag match together. The 2015 edition saw Aerostar, Best Friends, Drew McIntyre, known at that time as Drew Galloway, and Drew Gulak, taking on Andrew Everett, Drago, Mark Andrews, Timothy Thatcher, and Tommaso Ciampa. So right there, we had Ciampa and Thatcher well before they were even a thing in NXT. They had this amazing match, and one aspect of it, as Rob again put it, you get different things from PWG depending on who's in the match, right? This is pure comedy gold at points. Again, if you're a fan of Jim Cornette, you probably won't appreciate this necessarily, but Tommaso Ciampa would do some pretty wacky stuff in PWG. One of the things that he would do is he would have a time slowing machine where he would put everything in slow mo, but just by pressing a little button that he had. And so a large chunk of this match was fought in slow motion. This would actually reoccur again in the 2016 Battle of Los Angeles. This time, though, the match would star Cedric Alexander, Chuck Taylor, Jeff Cobb, Jushin Thunder Liger, and Tommy End, facing off against Brian Kendrick, Matt Riddle, Pete Dunne, Sami Callihan, and Tommaso Ciampa. Such a wide range of characters there in that match. But again, major comedy, huge entertainment. There's even a spot with Jushin Thunder Liger that will leave you shocked, maybe appalled, if you will. I won't spoil it for you. All I will say is that you need to check out PWG's content over on High Spots and get that streaming subscription started, because it's well worth your time and money. Rob, are there any matches or shows that you would recommend from PWG?
Oh man, I was just thinking that a few minutes ago. From 2000, when it comes back to thinking about years and like when stuff took place, I'm pretty bad at it. But I think around 2018, maybe 2017. I think it was right before Keith Lee left, so it might have been 2018. But you had Bask in His Glory show. That one took place at Reseda. You had guys like Bandito versus Robbie Eagles. You had Jonah Rock versus Tim Thatcher. Matt Riddle versus David Starr. And think about this. Walter versus Sammy Guevara. I mean, you think about that now and you're like, oh, poor Sammy, It's just I mean, so just little things like that. And then even if you go further back, I mean, you can't go wrong with any Battle of Los Angeles. But there's like shows like Mystery Vortex that was one of their highest like rated shows that people like review, and that's another show like you have Super Smash Brothers, which is Uno, and Stu Grayson. You had Scorpio Sky versus Joey Ryan, Willie Mack, El Generico. and that's an older one, but Adam Cole beat Kevin Steen for the title in a guerrilla warfare match. Just so much that went on at that show, Mystery Vortex. That's one of mine. I would say I probably watch that one at least once a year.
Wow. Well, and that's another great concept, and I didn't even think about that. But the Mystery Vortex concept from PWG is also really awesome. Basically, they just advertise, that Mystery Vortex is happening. No match card announced.
Mm-hmm.
It's all completely at random, right? Like you don't know who's showing up and what the matches are going to be. You just simply get the matches. And that's what Mystery Vortex is all about. You never know who's going to be there doing what match. So definitely check out a Mystery Vortex show or two, and try not to spoil the card for yourself, because they always turn out to be top notch.
Yeah, and like said, you brought it up, like with High Spots. I went ahead and checked to see they have over 200 events, pro wrestling guerrilla events. So it's the same price that you might, if you have it, you might be paying for Peacock. It's worth it, man. I'm telling you.
Even just to flirt with it, to say, hey, I'm going to try this out, see if I can find some PWG shows. It's well worth your time. Even just to subscribe for a month or two, just to try it out. It's an amazing subscription service.
Yeah, and if you're like me, you've given a lot of money to High Spots over the years. I mean, one thing that like I used to do in way back in the day was I was a tape trader. A lot of the stuff that I ordered was from High Spots, man. And they offer so much, and I don't know how many like different shows they have on there. And I know, like we said, this is not a paid sponsor. We're just telling you as fans why this is worth it.
Yeah, 100%. And if you are an Adam Cole fan, like my friend Rob here is, you'll also be pleased to know that there is a 60-minute Iron Man match between Adam Cole and Sami Callihan that is must see. So if you can find that one, definitely check that out. I think that one's which one is this one? Let me find it here real quick. It's just such a good match. Sami Callihan.
Was that 2007 to 16? Man.
Let's see. Yes, the event is called Is Your Body Ready? Yes, Is Your Body Ready is the 60-minute Iron Man match between Sami Callihan and Adam Cole, rated one of the best matches of that year. So you can definitely make sure that you go and check that one out. That being said, Rob.
Oh, that was way earlier than the one I was thinking. The match, the one I was thinking that was 2017 was just a 20-minute match. But the Iron Man match was back in 2013 per cage match. So.
So yeah, make sure to check all of these out, guys. I mean, like I said, seriously, PWG, one of the best things that you can do, the best bang for your buck that you can get. Rob, you and I are going to chat again here very soon about another topic. But until then, where can people find more of you and your content out there on the internet?
You can find me at Rob Wilkins on Twitter. I cover AEW Dynamite and NXT. I do live coverage on Fightful.com. I have a feature on Fightful.com called Selling the Merch, where I cover the outside the ring type stuff, like the merchandise side. I cover action figures, t-shirts, what's selling, what's popular, what's coming out, who's doing autograph signings. It's one of my favorite things that I do, because I collect stuff myself, and then shooting the Sportish. I'm going to start doing a lot more there now, finally. I'll be covering baseball more than like most of the time. So if you're a baseball fan, you can hit me up anytime. I will talk baseball and wrestling anytime I can. So please give me that.
Yeah, 100%. Make sure to go check out Rob. And again, in my opinion, one of the best minds in all of pro wrestling currently. His journalism is fantastic, and he definitely knows a thing or two about baseball for sure. So go and check out more of his content over on Shooting the Sports Ish. I am the Texas Gentleman Tanner Pruitt. We appreciate you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We greatly appreciate that. And we want to thank again the good folks over at Love Wrestling for allowing this episode to be on their feed as well. Until next time, y'all take care and have yourselves a great rest of your day.
Peace.